The commemoration of the 20th anniversary of the assassination of late Mrs. Kudirat Abiola, wife of Chief Moshood Abiola, the winner of the annulled 1993 presidential election, holds today. Kudirat was assassinated on June 4, 1996, while her husband, MKO Abiola, was detained by the federal government of Nigeria. She was a hero of democracy whose values defined womanhood, humanity, and dignity.
What I heard General Sani Abacha said in the broadcast this morning, my principal anxiety is General Sani Abacha, in various pronouncements, has already convicted Bashoru MKO Abiola before the trial starts. There were two instances where he came onto the air and said Bashoru MKO Abiola has committed treason, and the case is still pending in the court. So I believe that General Sani Abacha is the prosecutor, the jury, and is the judge. That has always been my fear, that the judiciary in this country has been stampeded by the dictators that impose on themselves on us as our leaders and rulers. So whatever comes out of the judiciary, I know is not going to be the truth. Because I'm more worried as a woman watching General Sani Abacha telling lies, deceit to fellow Nigerians as if we are foreigners. I am sad and worried.
Joining us now as we discuss the 27th commemoration anniversary of her assassination is Abdulmumuni Abiola, late Kudirat Abiola's son. Good morning and welcome to the morning show.
Abdulmumuni, thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's been, I think, 28 years. It was in 1996, 4th of June, that event happened. 28 years later, again, our condolences. But tell us about your mom. Tell us about her legacy, your remembrance, and all of that.
Wow, Alhaja Kudirat Abiola, she was born in Zaria. She was a very humble lady. She had siblings. She had about, I think, 2 older brothers and 2 younger sisters. And at the time, my mom, she after she graduated high school, she went to work, and she was able to support her sisters to go to university. You could tell that, from a young age, she was selfless, she was humble. And, she grew up in Zaria, she grew up in the north, and, so she was more or less a northerner, she spoke the language, she imbibed, she lived the culture. So for me, me growing up with such a lady, she was very determined. I even felt maybe she was a little bit too strict, especially with me, because I was very stubborn. Yeah, I'm sure you would know that I was kind of very stubborn when growing up. And she used to always scold me and try to make me understand that no matter how much my father had, because he was very rich at the time, that I shouldn't always, think that I'm entitled to anything. I should always look at the other side of the coin and, put myself in other people's shoes. So I remember vividly growing up, wanting to use the Mercedes to go to school, because obviously I felt that, I should be in the Mercedes. But my mom forced me to use the 504. I think she was trying to send a message to me at the time that no matter what you have, you should always know that everything is from God. And if Allah blesses you, you should know that just because you are blessed doesn't mean that you shouldn't be able to take care of other people or be compassionate when it comes to taking care of your fellow Nigerians or your fellow brothers and sisters. So I think, that's one of the things I remember vividly, her being a disciplinarian, always trying to make me understand that education was key, and that, you know, whatever I decide to do with my life, I should make sure that I'm doing it in a way of service, giving back to humanity. So that's mostly what I remember. You know, it's been 28 years, so it's been a long time since I lost her, and I did lose her when I was really young. But from at that age, what I really remember was punishing me. She had a koboko she used to use to like discipline me. I didn't like the koboko very much, but I still now, you know, in hindsight, I see what she was trying to do, trying to, like, you know, instill some kind of, you know, some habits in me that would, you know, see me through, especially now as I'm getting older.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Abiola. Now, when you look at the memories, like you talked about it yourself, you were very young when your mom was sadly and unfortunately assassinated. So a lot of the things you would hear about her freedom fighting or her activism would be from reported stories, I would imagine. But in that regard, do you think that today, as we remember her fondly, that she's been properly given the recognition that she deserves from the Nigerian government and the Nigerian people? I recall because I know that there's been some advocacy for immortalizing her. Do you think that what has been done thus far is enough to immortalize your mother?
Okay, you said that I was young. Guess I was young, but I was actually, I was there at a very pivotal moment. You know, I was in the country when she was actually assassinated. You know, I was here when the soldiers had come to the house to try to arrest my father. So I had seen things. Maybe I've not been able to put it into context, but I was definitely aware of what was happening. And I understood her role and her position that she stood for, you know, and I thank God that she was able to find the courage to, you know, take that position. But, like, you know, you've also said about this issue of honoring my mother, or, you know, in conjunction with my father. You know, I think when we talk about honoring, you know, people who have fought for this country, you know, I think it will be more impactful when we try to like do some of the things that they were fighting for. You know, my father's ambition during the whole elections was farewell to poverty. You know, a better way to immortalize my father is to make more people, you know, bring more people out of poverty, educate more people, you know, expose more people to opportunities where they can actually find something to sustain themselves. So that could be a way of actually immortalizing them, and not necessarily naming something or a building over somebody. I think the ethos of the principles and what they stood for should actually speak volumes. You know, on my part, you know, and in individual as a family, we can now look at maybe scholarships that we would dedicate on her behalf, that we do for, like, young children, young ladies who are trying to maybe go into, like, engineering or STEM programs. But for when we talk about, like, a country in general, or government, I think we should more be looking towards, you know, the message that they were trying to get across, and that was more of, you know, the Nigerians' prosperity is in our collective, you know, responsibility. So if we can, you know, try to imbibe those principles, that might be a better way of honoring, you know, their legacy and the sacrifices that they made.
All right, Abdulmumuni, I'm good to talk to you. My commiserations once again, because I know what it feels like losing a mom at an early age. I too also lost my mom at an early age, so I know what it's feeling like. And, you know, she's watching over you, and the love will continue to be in your heart. Take heart. But you see, I have a question, very important question. The truth is, most of the people that fought with your father and your mother are the ones in power today. But the things have not changed. It's still the suffering that they said they were going to do when they were fighting with your father. What can you say about that?
Wow, you know, that's a big question. You know, this question comes up all the time. You know, and then there's also another one that comes up where it says 25 years after, is this democracy that they died for? Now, I always say this. I say democracy is a journey and not a destination. It is always changing, and there's a prerequisite to a democracy, and that is participation. We need to be engaged in the process. Yes, you're right. The President, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, was a key member of the Nigerian struggle. He knows what we what we're discussing, verbatim. He was there. He was even threatened. His life was also threatened. So I know that we might not be exactly where we want to be, but the only way we're going to get to that promised land is when we all take ownership of Nigeria. I said this before, and my father was on, he was able to win across board. That was because the message that he put out there was accepted by the majority of the population. What we need to do, if we really want that democracy that we all individually want, is by working together, collaborating, synergizing. You see, the democracy is a two-edged sword. Is a double-sided coin. There's one part where it's the leadership, and there's another part is the followership. The followership needs to keep the leadership in account. So the more people that engage in this democracy, the more people that participate, the more people that that believe in the process, that will be the way. Abiola would never have been the one to fix Nigeria. Nigerian people themselves would have done that, and I think he was trying to make that clear. So yes, I believe that we have a long way to go in this democratic journey, but like I said, it's still a journey. And the only way we can demand that dividends of democracy is when we are on the table, we know what is happening, we're informed, we're educated. These are the steps that we need to take as citizens and as people who have agency. Nigeria belongs to us all. So yes, Mr. President has his role, but we as citizens have our role to play. I'm a strong believer that, we are blessed to be in the democratic journey. This might not be the democracy that we all want, but like I said, the only way we're going to get there is by working together towards that
very good response there.
Renewed hope, or with that hope agenda that my father was
very good response
was fighting for, and I think that's important. So okay. Yes, I understand your question. And I can stand here and say, yes, Nigeria is not going well, but that is not my role. My role is to key into what government is doing towards moving this country forward. Okay. And I believe that if all other Nigerians, in their own little spaces do the same thing, we'll get to the promised land.
Okay, as we begin to wrap up, let me ask you a personal question. How is the family? You had cause not too long ago to say that your siblings, specifically Kola Deji and Abiola, are playing God over your late dad's assets, properties, and other projects. Have you guys been able to reconcile? Is there now, concord, unity within the family? You are no longer complaining about your siblings that you say are playing God. What's the situation today?
Well, for me, I noticed that, back previously when I was younger, I was very vocal. And, it's in Yoruba culture, it's frowned upon when someone younger is having, discussions with his older brother in a certain way. So I thought I might have maybe been been working against myself. First of all, yes, we are still not speaking with one voice, which is a shame, because I think we can do a lot together. For instance, some of the situations that we find ourselves in today, if the Abiola family were one, I can guarantee you that the Abiola farms will be operational. That is about 45,000 hectares of farmland that could have been put to use. And God knows how we will be helping reduce the cost of food products across Nigeria. So I've had these conversations with my brothers, and it seems like we are at an impasse. So I've basically reached out to the federal government to take charge of this matter. This is we're talking 28 years after my mother died, almost about 25 years after my father died, and we're still having these issues. The Abiola family are hurting, but then there are other people who are also hurting. There were people who were employed by the Abiola farms. There were people who were employed by Concord, who worked for my father, who believed in my father. And, and they just, we left them hanging. I remember going to Lafiagi, Kwara State, to meet with the emir who my father bought the 10,000 hectares of farmland from. When he saw me, he just started crying. And he said, "This is not what your father promised me." So I, for one, believe that the promises that my father made is left to the children to fulfill them. Whatever issues we might have between the family, I am willing to resolve it in line and in the future hope of this country. Abiola's properties belonged in Nigeria. The ones that are in Nigeria, we can employ more people if these things are put into place. For now, what I've decided to do is to, is to calm down. Like I said, Rome wasn't built in a day. I'm reaching out to people of like minds to see how I can work with them towards, bringing a better tomorrow, not only for the Abiola family, but for Nigeria as a whole. I don't believe, we live in a global village today. So yes, in the family we are divided. Even during the elections, you'll have seen that as well. My brother was in PRP. I am in APC. So we're all speaking with different voices. But I believe that in due time, and we need to reconcile. I think that's the word. We need to reconcile. We need to come together. We need to rededicate ourselves towards that vision that my father had for the country. And once we, as the Abiola family, we can come together to do that, we can now help more people. I can only help myself. I can only help others if I can help myself. And that is my thing. It was not really about making the same amount of money my father did, but it was more about seeing how we can alleviate some of these pressures on the Nigerian people. All
right, two things very quickly as we close. The first is, I hear you when you say you've become calmer. Prior to the head of the elections, 2023 elections, you had opined that the APC convention should elect a youthful candidate to represent them. Obviously, that didn't go quite the way that you wanted. I'd like to get your thoughts in terms of, do you still believe that that would have been a better option for Nigeria currently? And then the second part of the question is this, it could be quite sensitive. When you look back, was it worth it? Your mother's assassination, her activism, speaking out, particularly in light of where we are today, 28 years later, and the fact that your family, especially your mother's children, have consistently advocated for justice to be done with regards to what happened to your mom.
Okay, so for the first question, like I said, I'm a party man through and through, and I'm an APC. So, at the APC, we have our leader, who is His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Now, you have to understand that this man was also a key figure during the pro-democracy movement. You might not be able to find a better representative of this democracy than Asiwaju right now. And if you look in his government, you can see that, the amount of young people that he has put to work is something that we can also be encouraged about. Now, we might not be there yet, but like I said, democracy is not a destination, but a journey. And the only way we're going to get to that promised land is when we all take ownership of Nigeria. I think Tinubu said it himself, that Nigeria belongs to us all. Once we realize that this Nigeria that we're talking about is our personal and collective right, then we will start to get it right. Your second question, if I remember correctly, you said, was it worth it? Yeah. Now, I only have Nigeria to call my country. And I don't see any better country than this Nigeria. There are 200 million people who are doing wonderful things, extremely intelligent. With everything that's happening, we are still optimistic. I don't think that what they did was in vain at all, in any sense of the word. I think that they stood for something, and it's that vision that they stood for is what I am fighting for. That Nigeria where everybody can like my father was poor, and he became one of the richest in Nigeria. That same opportunity is open to every one of the Nigerian people today. God knows how many Abiolas are now, not being taken care of because they were not nurtured. They were not, their brilliance was not identified early enough. So from my point of view, I have a wonderful name. I have sisters and brothers who are doing wonderful things, who can give me advice. I did not really lose as much as other people in Nigeria did. Some people never knew their parents to begin with. All right. So as for one, I'm not going to sit here and castigate my parents for what decisions they made. What I can do as a child is to see how I can move that needle forward, even if just a little bit further, so that way there's still a Nigeria to talk about. So that sacrifice is not in vain. All right. So that is my answer to that.
Thank you very much for your time with us this morning. Abdulmumuni Abiola, son of the late Alhaja Kudirat Abiola, whom we remember today, 28 years after her assassination. Thank you.